Hey, welcome to episode 7. This will be the M. Night Shyamalan episode. With the release of Knock at the Cabin, I figured why not go back and rewatch all his other movies that are horror or thriller at least, and do a M. Night Shyamalan ranking after I talk about his new movie, Knock at the Cabin, starring Dave Bautista. But first, let's go over some recent updates, some horror news. So, Scream 6, another update. I keep talking about this goddamn movie every episode, it feels. Scream 6 has announced that it's going to be 3D. Now, that would be really exciting if I could see 3D. I can't really watch 3D movies all that well anymore since an eye injury. I got scar tissue over my left eye's cornea due to some fungus pushing its way through my eye one Christmas morning, so now I'm blind in my left eye. Not 100% blind, but really blind. So it's like a foggy mirror. That's what it looks like. Uh, so therefore, it's really hard to watch movies in 3D when you only have one good eye. So that's going to be in 3D. I'm curious how much they're going to throw in there that's 3D. Did they really plan this to be 3D? Like ahead of time? Like, why are we just now finding out about this? Is it just one of those movies that wasn't shot to be 3D, but then they have the technology to release it in 3D, and there's not going to be much in it that actually like is going towards the camera? I don't know. Like, I hope there's not a bunch of scenes that just feel like thrown in there, like in Jaws 3 or Friday the 13th 3. There's gonna be like Ghostface with a yo-yo flying towards the camera again. Like, I hope there's none of that shit. Um, this next piece of news, I don't have much to say about it because I haven't seen the first one, but Attack the Block 2 is in early development. The first one came out in 2011. It's a sci-fi comedy horror film about aliens, I think. It's got a really good rating, so maybe I should check it out. But Attack the Block 2, expect that sometime soon, within the next year or so. The Night of the Comet remake, which was announced 5 years ago, the writer of this remake says that it's still a possibility that it could be made at any point. And I hope Night of the Comet does get remade because, I rewatched the original recently, got the Shop Factory Blu-ray, and while I enjoy that movie, there's some things about it that haven't aged well. I feel like tonally, it's a bit of a mess. Like, it seems like it's cheesy and lighthearted, but then it's got this horrific premise and some like zombie scenes kind of thrown in, some nightmares. It kind of just doesn't really seem like it knows what it wants to be, but it's still enjoyable. And I feel like if they remake it, they can make it more, scary and keep the tone more consistent and have more scary stuff thrown in it than the original did and have better improved visual effects because, like I said, the original hasn't aged all that well, but it's still enjoyable. I would recommend watching it. I like it. Yeah, I think it made my top 10 of 1984. And Stephen King has another movie coming out. It's called The Boogeyman. This is going to be directed by the guy, Rob Savish, who directed Dashcam, which I haven't seen, and Host, that laptop pandemic movie, kind of like Unfriended, which I really enjoyed that movie. Seen it a couple of times. It's fast paced, really enjoyable, quite impressive for the budget. And so I'm curious to see how well this movie is. And it's PG-13. Maybe that could be a good or a bad thing. I don't know. I'm thinking about maybe doing like a top 10 PG-13 horror movie ranking at some point. Maybe I'll do it when this movie comes out. Subspecies 5, the prequel, is coming out. This is the newest movie in this, franchise from the 90s that I've never seen before. I've never even really heard of it until recently. There's, I guess, 4 of these from the 90s, and it's been 25 years since the 4th one. And this is going to have the same writer and director, Ted Nicolau. Hope I'm saying that right. Nicolau, who worked on the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and he wrote and directed that really hilarious, cheesy, fun, awesome movie, Terror Vision. Really enjoy that movie, and hope I should, I guess, check out these subspecies movies before the 5th one comes out, because apparently it's coming out quite soon. It's already made. I think there's a trailer out. It's going to star Kevin Spirtus from Friday the 13th Part 7, The New Blood, the guy who played Nick. But yeah, I don't have the release date here, but I do think it's already made and it's coming out, I think, sometime within the next couple months. So yeah, I think all four of them, the other four, are streaming on Tubi. So if you want to watch them for free, you can watch them there. Now, last piece of news here. It was just announced in the last couple of days that I Know What You Did Last Summer is getting a fourth movie with the legacy characters, the actors coming back, Freddie Prinze Jr., Jennifer Love Hewitt, and I could give a shit less. I couldn't give a shit less because I don't like these movies. They're terrible. All three of them are terrible. Everyone likes to just shit on three, but it's like, is it really that much worse than like two? Like two is dog shit. Three is just as bad. I don't think it's that much worse. People just hate that it's supernatural, but it's at least trying something a little different than part two. Part two is just stupid. I hate those movies. You can check out my reviews and see me just shit on them for 20 plus minutes if you want. I'm not going to do that again here. I don't give a shit about these movies. They're terrible. And so yeah, a fourth one coming out doesn't excite me unless it's directed by someone that I like and it's actually going to have some cool kills in it or something. And those other three movies just are so lame. So yeah, I don't have much faith in this movie being good. I don't even think there's a script out there yet for it. So I'm not sure how confirmed that is, if they are making it or if they're just talking about it. But yeah, whatever. Moving on. So let's talk about Knock at the Cabin and M. Night Shyamalan. So Knock at the Cabin, here we go. So let me just read the plot synopsis real quick in case you don't know what it's about. Here we go. So, while vacationing at a remote cabin, a young girl and her parents are taken hostage by four armed strangers who demand that the family make an unthinkable choice to avert the apocalypse. Boom, boom, boom. Now, I think this movie is based on a novel. I could be wrong, but I just remember seeing that, so I don't think this is like an original idea by M. Night Shyamalan. I think this is just taken from something else. I think Old, his other movie recently, was like that from a novel. So my thoughts on Knock at the Wood, Knock at the what? Knock in the Woods. I don't know what the hell I was trying to say there. Cabin in the Woods, Knock at the Cabin, Cabin in the Woods. I was like mixing those two titles together. Knock at the Cabin in the Woods. So did I like it? Yes. Is it great? No. It could have been, but I feel like this movie's main issue is that if you've seen a trailer, you've seen the movie, and you can guess where it's going. Like, you can guess whether or not they're going to make a sacrifice and who's going to be sacrificed if they do make it. You know, and like the trailer gives away that there really is an apocalypse going on. Like, I really wish that it was more questionable throughout, like whether or not these four armed strangers were telling the truth or not. It seems pretty obvious, especially by like the second time they turn on the TV, that they're not lying. So I just wish that there was a bit more mystery to this. And I like that they have the one guy, the one husband is like coming up with these, excuses as like he's in denial the whole time. He's trying to like be like, well, how do we know that they didn't fake this? And how do we know like they didn't just, like he's saying these things that kind of make sense. And I liked that. But at the same time, I knew that he was wrong and that these four people were telling the truth too early. I just wish that the movie was less predictable and that there was a little bit more mystery to this where you're like, are they telling the truth? Or are they just fucking crazy? But it just seems too clear early on by the middle, especially like the first half. You're like, yeah, they're telling the truth. There's an apocalypse and there's no way they're faking this. And so, but it's a very well directed movie. I really liked the score. I thought that the music really helped complement the scenes, amplified the tension, and there's some really well shot sequences, a good fight sequence, and also the acting. I thought the acting from everybody was terrific. Dave Bautista, very intimidating fellow, but he's playing like this really nice guy. He looks scary, but he's like playing this nice dude, but he's carrying this awesome, scary looking weapon. And but yeah, just some really intense moments, phenomenal performances. Really thought all the acting across the board was really good. Visual effects when done, it all looks really convincing. Like the tsunami that you see, the planes falling out of the sky, all the shit you see in the trailer. So I won't talk about anything here that's not in the trailer. That's like my rule. So I don't want to spoil too much, but if you've seen the trailer, you know that there's an apocalypse happening. There's tsunamis and planes falling out of the sky, and the visual effects are very well done. This is rated R, which not a lot of M Night films are, but it doesn't really feel like it, and that's another little nitpick. Is that the gorehound in me, the real horror fan in me that loves like violent films, like wanted this to just push it a little further because you see them with these awesome looking weapons that they've customly made themselves. They're like taping like pitchforks to axes, and they got these cool looking weapons, and we don't really get to see them used. Not on camera, at least. Like they're using them, but it's not on camera, and there's barely any blood. I don't feel like there's a lot of swearing either. So I'm not sure why it's rated R, but I feel like they could have made it more, horrific, like R rated, and really justify that R rating. Like really show these people getting killed with these weapons. I thought it was interesting that this movie opens up with like the 80s Universal logo. I'm not sure if it was the 80s or 70s. I don't think it was the 90s version, but it was like the old um, Universal logo at the beginning. So it made me think at first that this movie was taking place in the 80s, but then they had like a cell phone. And it was like, okay, well, this is modern day. So why? I don't understand that, but okay. So, and this movie is set in like Pennsylvania, like every M. Night film. And so, but yeah, I this movie is not told like linear, like it's told with like flashbacks, and this movie gets going quick. Like we don't get the traditional storytelling like in order where it's like, all right, we meet the characters, they drive to the cabin, and then we spend some time with them, and then they hear the knock. Like no, this movie starts basically like with the knock. Like the little girl sees Dave Bautista, and then shit hits the fan like within the first 10 minutes, and then we go back a few times in the movie doing like flashbacks. And I thought the way that was all done was very well done, very well edited. Like they came at the right moments. They didn't like overstay their welcome. It wasn't like they were staying in a flashback for so long. Like, all right, this isn't interesting. Let's get back to the cabin. Like they were just short, like little chunks of flashbacks throughout that were well placed. So yeah, very fast paced, well directed movie. I liked it, didn't love it because of the predictability of it. You know where it's going. There's no real shock here, no surprises. They don't pull the rug out from under you. But the performances really saved the movie. The dialogue, the direction, very well done. So those are my thoughts on Knock at the Cabin. Recommend checking it out. Not fantastic, but not terrible. It's not anywhere near as terrible as my number 10 film I'm about to talk about here. Let's get rid of that. All right. So let's jump into my ranking of M. Night's filmography here. So let's get going with The Happening. Oh boy, this is my least favorite M. Night film for a few reasons. Okay, I will say this movie has a really good opening. If the rest of the movie was like that, this would be a gem, but it's a fucking weird tonal mess of a film. Like it's like you got that awesome creepy horrific opening, and then the movie just has some really awful performances. Even Mark Wahlberg in this is terrible. And the dialogue is super corny at times. It's just such a cheesy weird. I'm like, was he going for like a B movie? Was he trying to make it silly? Like it just kind of kept going back and forth between like being dark and horrific and then being really stupid. Like you'll go from like kids getting blasted away with a shotgun to Mark Wahlberg talking to a plastic tree. And be like, I'm talking to a tree. And then that chick from the old lady from Split is like, "Are you gonna kill me in my sleep?" And then just the performance and like how Mark delivers his lines cracks me up, but not in a good way. I'm like, this is so stupid. He's like, "Oh God, no." I wouldn't kill. It's like he talks like he's exhaling the entire time. I don't know. Like he talks so weird in this movie. Am I the only one that noticed it? The way he talks, it's really bizarre. So yeah, just bad acting, bad dialogue, weird tone, just did not work for me. And there's no explanation really by the end, so that kind of hurts it too. Like we never know what the fuck is happening. What is the happening? Is it the trees? Is it the wind? Like what's responsible? I don't know. Is it the nuclear power plants? They never really tell you. So it's very ambiguous. So that's number 10. Number 9 is The Village. Now, from here on out, I actually enjoy these movies. These are all good to great movies. So, The Village, I've only seen this movie twice. Saw it when it first came out, did not watch it again until prepping for this video. And, you know, I feel like this movie is just all about the twist, and there's not a whole lot going on in it, which is why I put it so low, because it's just not very rewatchable to me. It's not very exciting. It's got a good cast, and a lot of M. Night's films have really great casts, but there's just not a lot happening in this, and when you already know the twist, it's not really worth watching again. Um, it's an interesting premise, but I don't know, there's just not a lot going on, and it just kind of takes a while for the movie to get to the point, and for the blind girl to start her journey through the woods. And at first you're questioning like, why the fuck would they let a blind woman walk through the woods on her own? But then you get answers to some of your questions at the end. M. Night delivering all the exposition at the end, and yeah, M. Night, he has a cameo, by the way, in every movie, and this was his most interesting cameo because it's like a reflection in this one. Like you only see him in like a reflection in glass, talking to like the ranger dude, explaining, how this place has been isolated for so long, and like they don't let planes fly over it. So yeah, I still have some questions that are unanswered, but it's not very scary or entertaining, not rewatchable. So that's why it's so low. Next up will be Glass. I've seen this one a couple of times, and I think this one visually has a lot of cool shots. I love, some of the sets in here. It's a beautiful looking movie. It's got a terrific cast, and performances very well done by Samuel L. Jackson, but especially the guy who from Split. Blanking on his name right now. It'll come to me at some point. I always blank on names. You probably know that by now if you've seen my channel enough. McAvoy, James McAvoy. He's the highlight of this movie. He was the highlight of Split. I just think his performance is fantastic. What puts this movie low is the third act. I wasn't big on it. I just feel like you could have made a much more interesting, more entertaining movie with these three characters together. At this hospital or institution, wherever they're at. Like that could have been more interesting. There's not a whole lot with them together in this, and just the climax I wasn't a big fan of. I don't like how this movie ended. I was a little sad and not in a good way. So yeah, number 8 I believe was Glass. Number 7, Knock at the Cabin. Just talked about it, so you know my thoughts. Number 7, Knock at the Cabin. Let's not talk about it again. So number 6, The Visit, M. Night Shyamalan's return. He did a couple of non-horror movies after The Happening, you know, not successful movies, financially or critically. And then he came back with a found footage horror movie, The Visit. And if you're not a fan of found footage movies, you're probably not gonna like this one. But I like found footage movies, and I really like this movie. But man, I wish I could have seen this movie not knowing the twist. I knew the twist going in, so I'll never know if I could have predicted it myself. How shocking it would have been. But I do like the idea behind this film, the idea behind the twist. I thought it was well done. And I really like these two kid actors in the movie. They were both together in Better Watch Out, a very awesome Christmas horror movie, horror comedy that I've reviewed. One of my favorites. So check that out. It's called Better Watch Out. Not to be confused with Christmas Evil. So, yeah, The Visit. I have a review for this movie, so I don't have to talk too much about it. So check out my review for this if you want to hear all my thoughts. All right, Old, same thing. I have a review for this one. Old, I really like this one because of the premise, and I just think it's super fascinating. Just like you're on this beach, and it's like you're aging a year for like every hour is like a year, and just I just think that's fascinating. And it gets really depressing by the end. And it's really just a movie about how quick life is. Like life is short, and it's so true. And this movie kind of like highlights that. And I like the explanation. Like you get all the answers at the end, and I like the answers that we get. I feel like that might be the breaking point. Like that's kind of what made this movie divisive because I do hear a lot of people shit on this. I'm not sure exactly why, if it's the performances or the twist, but I like the twist. I like the reason. Maybe it's not a twist, but it's more like a reveal. Like why is this happening on this beach? What's causing it? And what's the purpose? Like I like the reason. I thought it was clever. It worked for me. You got the guy from Hereditary, Alex Wolff. Not all the performances are great in this. I do remember some of them being a little, shaky. Like, yeah, that's a little uneven. But I just think the premise is awesome, and some really heartfelt moments like the family in the movie, and the poster is awesome. Also, like, this is the best poster of any M Night film. So yeah, number 4 is Old. Number 3, Unbreakable, the first of the whatever you want to call it trilogy. Unbreakable. Is there a name for it? I don't know it. Unbreakable, Split, and Glass. It's a trilogy. I'm not sure if there's a name for it, if it's like the superhero trilogy or I don't know. So let me know if there is one, or maybe I can just look it up, but whatever. So Unbreakable, Bruce Willis, Samuel L. Jackson. I love the way this movie is shot. I just rewatched it, and I didn't notice how like every scene seems to be like done with like long one takes. Like it seems like M Night purposely tried to make every scene in this movie done in one take. Where the camera will just keep moving from character to character as they're talking. Like the whole opening shot on the train, how it just like you're looking through the crack of the seat at the girl when she's talking, and it goes over to Bruce when he's talking. Like there's a lot of that throughout the movie, and the way that fight scene is choreographed and shot later on, like kind of like the bird's eye view. Like there's a lot of interesting shots in this. I just love the way this movie's shot. Cinematography, interesting story. You got this guy who's unbreakable, like they're polar opposites. Like he's super breakable, Samuel L. Jackson, and Bruce Willis is unbreakable. And it's an interesting take on a superhero movie. And it's not conventional. It's not like all the other, Marvel, DC. This is a very different type of superhero film, and that's why I like it so much. Yeah, so number 3, Unbreakable. Number 2, The Sixth Sense. A movie I've only seen a couple of times, and just like The Visit, this is a movie that because of how popular it is, it was hard for me to see this movie without hearing what the twist was. So I already knew, the big reveal that I think everyone knows, whether you've seen it or not, about, Bruce Willis. I'm debating if I should say it. I don't want to be that guy, because in case you're watching this and for some reason you don't know, I won't say it. But, the big twist of this film, one of the most popular twists of all time, really. It's the one that everyone likes to talk about or joke about. Like, that's like really what made this movie so popular, it seems. And so popular that people like me who had never seen the movie knew the twist before they went to see it. And that's kind of what hurt my experience of the movie, because like once you know where it's going, that can kind of ruin the experience a little bit. But where this movie succeeds is again, cast, performances, the way it's shot, just a very well written movie. I just have some questions about that twist. I just wish I had some more answers to some of my questions that I won't be asking now because it would spoil the twist. But Toni Collette, fantastic in this. She's phenomenal. Like everything she's in, like Hereditary, Oscar-worthy performance, and she gives another one here. Like that scene between her and her son in the car towards the end when they're talking, about their dead grandma. Like it's a very touching scene. Like I was getting like teary eyed a little bit. Like it got to me. Like this movie is very awesome. Like it's very well written, and just I just loved it this time around. I didn't like it as much the first time. I thought it was okay the first time, but on rewatch, man, it took me in this time. Like there's some really good chilling imagery, like because it's about this kid who can see dead people. In case you don't know, I haven't been given plot synopsis for all these, but it's about a kid who can see dead people, and he's at a school and he can see like people hanging, and then there's one moment where he sees a kid like in his bedroom, and when the kid turns around, and it's like the back half of his head's blown out. Like there's some cool imagery like that in this, and it was pretty grisly and awesome. So yeah, Sixth Sense, number two. Number one, I did not expect this to be so high up on my list, but when I rewatched it, I loved it more than I ever had before. Signs, Mel Gibson, Joaquin Phoenix, he was in The Village also, and you got Rory Culkin in this, and you got the actress Abigail Breslin, I want to say is her name, from Zombieland and Maggie. She's adorable in this. She's, her and her brother, very good child actors, and the family dynamic in here, the writing, the drama, the tension, the again the cinematography, the shots. There's some pretty cool shots in this, and like the way they reveal the aliens in this. Some of those shots are creepy, like the mirror reflection, or no, the TV reflection shots. Like that got me. I was like, oh shit. And I like how the aliens look in this, how they're not shown so much. I feel like they could have been shown a little less. I mean, they're not shown that much, but I feel like they could have stripped it back more, like put them more in the shadows. But yeah, the aliens look kind of freaky in this, and I just loved the family in this. Just the performances, the writing. I was really into this family, and I love that it's like a big alien invasion movie told by their perspective. Like we see like the whole world invaded by aliens, but on a small scale on this farm. Like we just see it happen on the news, So it's not like the other films like what was it called? Like War of the Worlds, where it's going to different locations or Mars attacks. It's like we're witnessing it all as they see it. Like we're seeing the events unfold through their eyes. So like whatever they see on the news, that's what we see, and I liked that, and it's just a fantastic movie. I loved it. I was not expecting it to be my number one, but rewatching it, it jumped up to my number one spot. It clicked this time for me. Really loved it. Signs is my number one M. Night Shyamalan film. So there you go. Let's get rid of that poster in that one too. So yeah, there you go. That's the end. What are your thoughts on M. Night Shyamalan's films and Knock at the Cabin? Let me know in the comments below. And I'm not sure what my next video will be about. Probably the Alien films, because I just did a poll recently, and y'all wanted me to rank the Alien films. So, but I'm not sure what I'll be watching to review next video. Maybe that new Winnie the Pooh movie's coming out, and Cocaine Bear, so maybe that'll be the next one. So, whenever that is, I'll see you there. I'll see you then. So, goodbye.